I don't get
Wait
a
for
ding.
it.
There's
Oh,
no
I didn't get a
ding
ding
for me.
either.
I don't hear the ding.
There's no ding.
Our dings.
It's already recording.
Yeah, I saw. But now I lost my script.
You're fired.
All right, so this is Dev Pirates Radio, where we challenge us all to push our limits and learn new things. Follow us as we create a game from start to finish, detailing how we accomplish each distinct development task. That's pretty tough to say.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Contact us at contact@devpirates.com. I'm Matt, and with me as always is Pete.
Hi, I'm Pete.
And our last current challenges was attacking and the death of an enemy. I think the player getting hurt. Fixing up the main menu with actual art assets instead of just a overview, and then also doing the HUD graphics. So yeah. So
did you say HUD for this time?
Yeah, I did the HUD graphics.
Oh, you did the HUD graphics. Okay, I was like, I didn't implement them if that was part of my task.
No. That's going to be you're going to choose one of two tasks for next time.
That's a false dichotomy, sir.
Well, I'm sorry. That's just what you got to deal with. Oh, we didn't do my task. What am I going to do next time?
You could do the walking animations for the Larvic.
Yeah, but we've already done walking animations for all different directions. It's not very distinct. I could figure out how we are going to do the levels, the zones, the terrain.
Okay.
Whether we're going to do terrain or we're going to do something more tile-y based. And if that's plausible. So let's try and do, I will do that. Design. And mock up. Levels. How's that?
Sure.
Because I'm afraid if I tried to do it all like the last time I did something like that, where with like the house, whereas like I designed it and then I graphicked it and then I 3D modeled it and then I imported it and all that. That was a lot of different development things. Anyway, so that's what I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me go ahead and start with my thing, since I already have all my stuff up. So these are my sketches.
Okay.
For what I was going to do for the HUD.
Nice.
We only had 3 things to include: health, adrenaline, and money. So I did a whole bunch of little concept sketches. And then, let me share my screen. Just share the whole thing. Boop, 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 boop. HUD gold.
It's so prettyful.
Then I made this one. I guess I couldn't just say I just made it. I did the outline, and then I did the circles. I spaced them out evenly, and then I worked mostly off of the designs that I wrote or drew.
Yeah, it looks pretty similar to what you had on your tablet.
Yeah. Well, I had a bunch of things, and a lot of them I didn't really like when I drew it down on paper, and then I went with this is mostly like some of the things that were drawn on the paper. And so I decided to do a few different colors, because just changing the colors is pretty easy. So I have blue, and then tan, and then red, and then we decided to go with blue. So I did all my future revisions in blue. So I have this version where they're all in the same line. I did a few variations on that. Then I did with a big money and big adrenaline bar. And then you said you liked the one with the staggered more. I agree with you. So I went back to the original one, but mixed with this one. So boom, we have staggered, we have big adrenaline and the big money.
Looks
money. And then went in and refined things a little bit more. One of the other things I did.
You built a palace?
No, that wasn't me. That was someone else.
Oh, okay.
That was someone else.
Sorry.
I did the all the different health levels.
Is that 8?
8, yes.
So there each gem will have 8 possible stances, or
yeah.
Okay.
So each gem is going to count for 8 hit points.
Okay.
And the character is going to get 1 gem after each of the bosses.
Okay.
She starts with 1, and then she'll get 1 for each of the 6 other bosses.
Okay.
We may want to do another gem altogether. Maybe. We'll see. But for now, the design is just 1 gem for each boss.
Okay. Cool.
And okay, let's get rid of these guys then. And we'll go to my next thing, which was I needed to do the HUD, the main menu graphics. Starting on the phone. Okay, so here we were. This is the first one I did. I added the buttons. That was pretty much it. And then we had that discussion where things needed to be in 32 by 32.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and you were doing the screen size at what, 1024?
Yes.
I just guessed at the height, but the height's pretty easy to manipulate. What I had to do is I had to rescale everything.
Yikes.
So I rescaled it. So if we put these both at 100, you'll see that it grows quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And when you rescale pixels, the pixel art, it's not just a quick scale.
Of course not.
You have to go in
and to assume what goes where, right?
Well, it will do one of two things, or one of a few things. But the two major things is it will try to when it comes across a pixel that's not quite exactly the same color, and on the rescale, it will blur them to try and make it look like a better resize. But that blurring is not something you want with pixel art.
Right.
Pixel art is supposed to be nice and crisp.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do is I turn that off when I'm doing pixel art for the scaling. But what that ends up doing is, I guess I'll just show you. So if we zoom in here, looks like everything I think looks pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we hit resize and we say 150%, you're going to see is some of them are going to be 2 things wide, some of them are going to be 2 things tall. So it's going to be not as
okay.
See that this is 2 pixels wide when it was just 1 pixel wide, and you see this is 2 pixels tall when it's supposed to just be 1. So I would have to go through and manually adjust these.
Yikes.
To this. And I did. But it's still a little bit quicker than starting over from scratch.
Sure, probably.
Well, it depends. Sometimes I just do it from scratch. And then I thought it looked better with this as like a reflection.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll notice before, just a dark spot, but I think it looks better as a reflection.
I agree. And
then another thing I did was I kind of wanted to do a highlight. So if you see the difference between these two, some of the angles they're up towards the light highlights a little bit more, and I think that gives it a little bit more of a punch.
It does. It does.
Right in the kisser.
Oh, so good. Yeah, looks good.
And so, that's what I did. All of these are on different layers, not right here on my on the computer that I did them on my desktop. And so I'll be able to just cut these out. And then this blue one is 32 64 128 160 by 64. and the buttons themselves are 128 by 32. So
Okay.
they all fall into the 32 by 32 that you need.
Awesome. Yeah. Did we already talk about that last time?
We did
Why we
not.
need to do that? Well, let me get into it.
Okay, let me stop sharing because I don't like to share.
Never did, even as a kid.
No.
So I'll share that screen. Okay. So you may not be able to see this very well unless I actually change the camera. So let's do that. Originally, we had the camera set to, it was just standard perspective camera. And what was happening then, let me get rid of this Larvik real quick. Okay, save, play. Okay, so what's happening is, if you can see, she gets blurry. Let me just eject her real quick. Well, I guess she doesn't get blurry when you zoom in, but there were times when you'd move around and you could just see all the nasty blurriness. And if that's coming through in the video, which I hope it is, you can see what I'm talking about. But the problem with that is that the engine is trying to adjust for pixels that don't line up on the exact grid, which works great for 3D games, pretty much anything but pixel art games. So for pixel art games, you have to pick orthographic for the screen that you're going to be using in the game, so that it doesn't have to try and guess and mesh these pixels together and try to make a whole image. The orthographic basically makes it so that you can set the you can set the number of pixels on the width, and as long as every one of your assets is a factor of that width and height, obviously, then you'll be fine. Everything will show up nice and crisp, just like this. There's no blurring. For some reason, when she stops, she gets the sun glaring in her face. But we'll work on that. I'm not sure what that is. I think it's trying to reflect off of her white skin, but because when her back's to the screen, it doesn't happen.
I think it's her texture. I think she's got a shiny texture.
Yeah, we'll have to fix that. Anyway, so yeah, you've got that going. So you set it to orthographic. Make sure that it is a multiple of all of your assets, and then you.
I was kind of hoping we could keep the 3D though.
3D meaning?
Because I like the perspective and not the orthographic.
It's still
find a way to do that. That would be awesome.
You can play around with it, but I think that we risk having things get blurry every now and again.
I think a blurry every now and again should be fine. I mean, we'll have to see. But I kind of like the way it looks right now. Mm-hmm. Where we do like the low res textures that are pixel arty with the enemies that are pixel arty. Whoa, what did you do that for?
I meant to actually just pull out a Larvik. Okay. So this is the enemy I created, or you created, and I implemented.
Well, I just did the graphics.
Yeah. So here's how it plays out. I probably made it too big.
Yeah, that's like twice the size it's supposed to be.
Okay. So
it's gonna get you with its butt.
It doesn't turn. It doesn't know which direction it's going. At least the sprite doesn't yet. I'll have to implement that later. I did make it so that when she gets hit, she does that hit thing. It was loading, so that's why it went blurry like that.
Yeah.
And she blinks when she gets hurt. Okay.
That's nice.
And then now she can swing.
It's a nice looking swing you got there.
It looks okay. So I'm working out some things because, like, if you're walking and swing, it doesn't quite animate properly. But
I think the swing animation would overwrite the walking even if she's walking.
Yeah.
Or maybe we can do a walking swing.
The problem is that the event gets interrupted because the key press things are constantly checking for updates. So it's really hard to, I mean, it's not really hard. I just need to find a way of shutting those down while you're swinging, that's all. Okay, so
stop them from moving.
Yeah. So now I can kill the Larvic. And it poofs and dies all pretty like.
It looked like the poof was underneath it, though.
Yeah, I might have to set where it spawns a little bit better. I don't know.
Oh, that worked.
Let's try it again.
No, maybe I was just seeing things.
So yeah, the poof will show up at exactly the same size as the sprite. So I bumped up the size of this guy to 3 times the size that it came in as.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was thinking that the poof should be bigger than the sprite.
Okay, well that's just something, and I'll show you why it just comes in that way. That was just the default, because, well, here you go. We've got scale. I scaled it up 3 times. So why does it have a location? It doesn't need a location. Oh, that's why.
It was 12.
Yeah, I set back to 12. Okay, that's to make sure that it wasn't like sinking underneath the floor. So anyway, we've got the event graph for this guy. Now you'll see only one thing in here because the rest of it is inherited from another class. This is a child class of the slime that I created to test on last time.
You probably have to change that to something more generic like enemy.
Yeah, I actually did that as well. Okay, so every tick, it's going to see if he's dead, but the death has not been completed yet. I'll find a nicer way to implement that later. I'll refactor that. So then it says set that first so that the next time this runs, it'll stop here.
We'd probably set that to like the base enemy class. You have something ask it if it's alive.
Yeah. Okay. So you set the controller. Unpossessed makes it so the AI stops going. I used to have a corpse running around chasing me until I added that. And then you get the relative transform. This is why the smoke shows up as the same size as the flip book, because it just takes this transform, which is location, rotation, and size.
Mm-hmm.
And I just copy that. You can actually break it out if you wanted to. You could say break, transform, and you can rip it all out. It's not too complicated. Then you set the looping to the this is the smoke. So I set the smoke looping to false. Set the under flip book to dead. That's what this is, Larvic dead, if you can't read it.
Yeah.
Delay for a second, and then I used to have something up here, but I don't anymore. Destroy the smoke first, and then we destroy the collision for the dead guy, so that he no longer hurts you when you walk over him.
That's good.
This should actually probably be before even the smoke gets set. You should remove the sphere.
One thing I found to make things super easy, especially when you're doing new things, is to separate the effects out from the object itself. It's like the poof smoke is going to be used on a lot of different enemies. Mm-hmm. So we would just create a generic spawn for that. So we create like a poof object.
Or a function? Or are you talking about like an actual like actor? Like smoke will be an actor.
Yeah, it will be an actor, but won't have any collision or anything like that. It would just be just for display. And then you could also just attach like different things onto it. So you can do like different kinds of poofs and different other kinds of things or whatever. Yeah. So you can like call it.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably what I'll do. This was the quickest way to implement it though for this.
Yeah. I mean, this was just to get this done.
This right here is the base enemy, what he inherits from. So this is the basic dying function that most of the enemies will have, and we'll just override it for those that need to override. This is what happens when they overlap. So they just walk into you. This is the get hit function. This is something new I did as well. This is a lot more blueprinting than I've done in the past for a single thing. So let's go over this real quick. So first thing you do is you set the Boolean invulnerable. You grab it, and if it's false, then you do this.
Right, because you don't want him to be hit more than once.
Right. And then you check and see if he's dead. If he is dead, you set him to dead. If he's not dead, you set him to invulnerable and move on. Then the first thing you do after you set him invulnerable, this is actually unnecessary. This was another way I was looking at. Well, I'll leave that in there for now. This was a way I was trying to get him to stop moving when he was hit. But I see now I just need to unpossess him. So that's probably what I'll do in the future. Then after a 2-second delay, you set him to vulnerable again. It probably need to tighten that down, but we'll just leave it there for now. Okay. If he's not dead still, then he blinks. Now this is my blink function. You say this takes the event that was linked to right here. Set a blink counter. It's just an integer variable, and as long as it's less than 10, this keeps going. It says if that's less than 10, go. If not, set it to 0, and then it'll break out. So set actor hidden for 0.1 seconds. Set invisible for 0.1 seconds, and then you rinse and repeat.
Nice.
That's all that blink function is. Okay, Savron. Let's go over. Hers was a lot more involved, so I'm trying to make this as fast as possible. Event graph. Okay, so we didn't do anything with, well, I did do the blink. It's the exact same function. And get hit is very similar. I reuse stuff. I might actually collapse that into a function that can be used on multiple things.
Well, if you did like instead of like an enemy class, you have like a character class.
Yeah.
Pare these down.
Then everything can inherit from that, and even you can have friendlies and enemies inheriting from that again. Okay, so this is attack. So I've collapsed a lot here, and we'll just start with this. So when you click or hit E, in our case, you set her state to attack, and you find whichever direction she's facing. I did some refactoring because the way I was doing directions and stuff was done before. And then you go to the attack graph. Let's just focus in on one of these here because it's really just the same thing repeated over and over again. You set the flip book. If the direction's up, she goes up. And then you grab the transform, set the relative transform. Okay, so here when I say get transforms, I actually made a function for that. Again, this is a lot more blueprinting than I've done in a while. Paper flip book, grab the transform, add 32, and then return it. So that's what that was. And then let's go back to the attack graph. Okay, so that's how you get this transform here. I just made a function for that. Add the sword, set the collision to collision enabled. Then you bind an event, which is hit enemy, and then you go into attack micro. So is there anything I went over too fast there, Matt? Is there anything you need me to explain?
No, I think it's good.
Okay. So when it gets to the attack, you grab references to both Savron and the enemy, run through this sequence. You disable the input so that you can't override stuff. Apparently it's not working for the movement key, so I've got to look into that. Set a delay 0.2. This is basically so you don't overdo, when she's attacking, you don't want to overwrite that state, that the animations and all that. Okay. Then after you destroy the sword and set her to idle and enable input again. But this starts here and keeps going, and that whole thing takes 0.2 seconds. Before even that delay is done, it's actually going to cast to the Larvic and activate the get hit event.
So does this only trigger when they overlap?
When they collide.
Right.
Yes. And yeah, the functionality is going to be the same for overlap or collide or whatever we decide to do. We just have to find the right event that works for our game and work from it. Because like if we go back to Savron and then the attack graph, we could actually set this to, instead of colliding, we could set it to overlap.
Same difference. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. There's other ways of going about this. You could use an interface and then say toss out a sphere, and anything within that sphere collides with. And that might actually be what I have to do in the future, because this is just seeing if this sprite collides with the enemy object, like the sphere or the sprite of the enemy. Because I have a collision sphere for the Larvic. It's not just the sprite.
I should only be worried about colliding with the sphere.
Right, but I'm thinking that this should have its own collision sphere.
The sword?
Yeah.
Yeah, the sword should have its own collision sphere, and the player shouldn't hurt the player. The player character itself shouldn't hurt anything.
What do you mean? Shouldn't hurt anything?
She shouldn't hurt anything because only her sword should.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's the way it is right now. Any enemy that overlaps her, she gets hurt. But if her sword overlap or collides with an opponent, then it hurts them. Okay. Did I do the attack macro? Yes. Get Savron transforms. We did that. Take damage. This can go. I don't need that. And I'm color coding all my things to kind of keep them a little bit more organized.
That's good.
Whew. All right. That was a lot to go over.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a lot of work.
Well, now that you know how to do it, you can go in and pare things down and
make them all pretty and nice. Whew. I think she may need to be launched further.
Yeah. So otherwise, it's just running right into her.
Yeah, and I need to make it so that he doesn't keep going in. Like collide, stop. That's what should happen.
Well, this character should be a random. Yeah, when it collides, it should stop, but it should also be a random wanderer. Shouldn't go right after the character. That looks really good.
Coming along just fine. All right. So I will stop the sharing.
All right. So our next tasks. Have you decided which one you wanted to do?
Yes. I think I'll do the title screen. I think that'll be nice.
All right. So you do the title screen. I'll give you all the assets for those. I'll zip them up all nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do design how we're going to do the levels.
Okay.
And I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Let's do our catch up. We didn't do a catch up last week, or did we?
We did on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah. All right, so let's hurry up through this general. Okay, I did not edit the podcast from 2 weeks ago. Uh-oh. Behind schedules. All right. You did the creating. Oh yeah, you did the sprite animations tutorial. Did you do the tutorial for this one?
I did not. I'm thinking I might have to break it up into multiple things.
All right. You have to do a right tutorial for tasks. I have to do the tutorial for the title screen and the HUD. And then our next one is Pete. Right, a tutorial for
All tasks completed this week.
creating a main menu or title screen. Matt is a tutorial for designing level. I don't know what to call that. Process.
Afraid I can't help you.
All right. Zombie King. We still haven't done anything on that for a while.
Yeah.
For Ride, I've been working on the backgrounds for 3.1. I'm thinking because the levels are pretty similar, I'm going to reuse graphics. And so the backgrounds for all of Zone 3 are probably going to be a little bit the samey, but it's all inside of a nebula. So I think it should be fine. I think it will still look good. I just don't know what else I can do inside of a nebula other than show nebula backgrounds.
I don't know.
And then once I'm done with those, I'll do GIFs for all of the things. So I need to do a GIF for each of the enemies and then each of the bosses, and then for the animations, the cutscenes. All right, so Unify lists and podcasts, I need to do the auto links. So when you enter a link inside of the descriptions, it will auto detect links and then linkify them. And that's it.
Cool.
So I need to hurry up and finish Ride so that I can focus more on Endangered Kingdoms.
Yeah, that would be nice. Not like I'm going to be able to keep up with if you keep tossing a ton of assets at me.
Well, doing assets takes a long time.
I know.
All right. Well, that's it for tonight.
Cool.